My wife and I moved to Washington, Missouri to pastor Wellspring Church in 2006. We soon discovered that Torrance, a hardcore band, practiced in the garage right next to the house that we were renting. They were practicing so close to our house that when they played, our 20-pound cat started to vibrate across the floor. I had talked to them before about the possibility of coming over sometime during a practice, and I felt like that night that God wanted me to. Honestly, I didn't want to go. I kept fighting God. The more I resisted, the more clearly He spoke. Finally, I obeyed. Soon learned that the band was actually an anti-Christian band, but they were friendly enough to let a young, goofy pastor hang out during their band practice. After the practice, Kurt and I started talking. Curtis, their drummer, and he approached me one day with a question. He had been trying to sell candles door to door to raise money for a 3-year-old boy with leukemia. Now, even with all of Kurt's tattoos and piercings, door-to-door candle sales were not going very well. He knew he could raise some real cash with the Torrance concert, but he couldn't find a place willing to let them host a show. He asked me about the possibility of using the Wellspring Church building for the concert. So this is how, as a rookie pastor, I found myself approaching the church board with the possibility of hosting an anti-Christian concert in our church building. I felt like Jesus wanted us to support this band as they were so angry at Christians, but they were requesting our help to serve someone in need, and this was a huge step of faith on their part. How could we let them down? The church board was scandalous enough to approve the proposal, and in May of 2006, we opened our church building so that an anti-Christian band could host a benefit concert to raise money for a 3-year-old boy with leukemia. The concert raised over $1,600 and solidified a growing friendship between me and Kurt. While setting up for the concert, Kurt noticed that our church's drum set. After learning that we lacked a drummer, Kurt soon began playing drums for us on Sundays. Over the next few months, Kurt played drums every Sunday, and we continued to hang out, and we had lots of discussions. At the time, Kurt was facing some significant challenges. In August of 2006, he borrowed a gun, wrote a note to all of his loved ones as he prepared to end his life. Then God intervened. Kurt felt God say, "If you are willing to give your life away, why don't you give it to me?" Not believing in God becomes more of a challenge when God starts talking to you. Today, Curtis is a new man. God is replacing his anger with love, and he is dedicating his passions for God's use. Over the last 5 years, Wellspring Church has allowed Kurt and I to start a concert venue called The Crux in that same church building. We host a mix of Christian and non-Christian bands, and we are doing what we can to introduce both kinds to Jesus. There's a lot of misunderstandings going around about the heart of God. And many of these, I feel, are caused by people who believe they have a relationship with God, but actually only have a relationship with a religious checklist. Or at the opposite end of the spectrum, people who use grace as a blank check to do whatever they feel like doing. Kurt will tell you that he still doesn't believe in the God that he didn't believe in at the beginning of our friendship. Through the voice of Jesus, both of us have come to believe in a God that is more scandalous and who loves with more of a reckless intensity than anyone we could have imagined before. The hero of our story is God. He reached out to me when I did not want to be obedient, and he reached out to Kurt when he did not want to live. It may surprise you to learn that throughout the Gospels, Jesus is frequently in trouble for breaking some of the religious rules in order to obey the rule of love. At one point, Jesus looks at the religious people accusing him and asks, "Which is lawful to do on the Sabbath? To do good or to do evil? To save life or to kill?" Mark chapter 3, verse 5 says that he was angry with these religious leaders because of their unloving hearts. Are you angry at any religion that chooses the rules over love? Please listen carefully. So is Jesus. It was religious people who executed Jesus, and if you obey his voice, they will probably attack you too. But he will lead you to a greater experience of love and life than anything you have ever known. He wants to lead you into some dark places, places where religious people are unwilling to go because there are people in those places who desperately need his love. There is an uprising occurring in God's church. a rebellion of love, as people surrender to Jesus and allow the rule of love alone to guide us. To learn more about how you can experience God's voice and God's power, please subscribe to the Rebellion of Love channel on YouTube.